Tucked in between a street full of multi-family homes, the one-story building in the north end of Woonsocket had a history of being a friendly neighborhood bar, which coexisted well with the homes surrounding it. But over the past year, under a different owner, Rick's Bar and Grill has evolved into a magnet for trouble, with police responding to calls for fights, loud music, assaults, and allegations of underage drinking.
We found hypodermic needles on the grass.
Jean Martin and her husband have had a box seat for all of the problems. The Martins' home is a stone's throw from the back door of the bar, where patrons often spill out at or before closing time and mingle in the parking lot. Jean Martin sees and hears it all from her bedroom window. Martin, who years ago worked at the bar when it was called Bullducks, said the crowd has changed dramatically, attracting a rougher element. Her complaints to the city, she says, have fueled some patrons' anger toward her.
You couldn't go outside. I couldn't sit outside without people making comments up at my deck to me.
So a year ago, Martin installed multiple security cameras that have taken in all of the action. And at times, it's not been pretty. Fights? Cars spinning their wheels outside her bedroom window, and people urinating in the parking lot, plus chaotic scenes just yards from her property. But it's this video, taken last November 30th, that Martin says took the problems to another level. A man pulling out a gun and pointing it at several people in the parking lot. The bar's owner, Richard Diaz, is seen trying to disperse the crowd, but he never calls police, as required by the city.
And you see a guy pulling a gun. What goes through your head?
Absolute fear. Absolute fear. If it happened once, it can happen again.
And so you're worried maybe a bullet's going to come your way?
Absolutely. I mean, this is our family room. My grandchildren are here.
So Martin went to members of the city council and the city's police chief repeatedly.
They're on our radar, and we try to monitor that. Even though they might not have a detail officer, we've spent considerable time up there, whether it's self-initiated or response to a call for service.
Chief Thomas Carey has met with Diaz to talk about the problems, and then he compiled a list of police responses in 2014 for the council, which doubles as the city's liquor licensing board. Carey said sometimes officers found problems when they arrived, other times not, even when they got there within minutes of a call. The licensing board called in Diaz last October, before the gun incident, for a hearing to answer to several violations brought by the police. After the gun incident in November, Diaz was charged criminally by police with obstruction. The city reached an agreement with Diaz to close for 2 days, of his choice, and to hire a police detail through January. But when that ended, the trouble gradually started up again. And in May, a woman punched another female patron, seriously injuring her. But it wasn't until June 29th that the council brought Diaz back to face 5 more charges, 7 months after the gun incident. And Martin can't understand the delay, especially with the videotape she supplied the police and the council.
I think at one point they thought of me as being maybe over emotional, over hysterical.
But you gave them the videos.
Yes, I did.
And what did they say when they saw 2 guys running around like this?
They didn't say too much to me. They just said that we're working on it.
We know what's going on in Providence, right?
Absolutely. And this is why.
And did that go through your mind?
Immediately, and now even more so. And as time went by, I kept saying, why isn't anything being done? Not only just because with the guns, people were harassing me, doing things in front of the window.
City Solicitor Michael Marcello, who prosecuted the 5 charges at last month's meeting, told the Hummel report later he could not say why Diaz was not brought in sooner after receiving the gun video. Council President Al Brean said he wanted to move more quickly, but was told Diaz's previous violations needed to be settled first. And the chief said the city had to put together a thorough case before finally holding a hearing last month.
When you look at that videotape, the question I guess Mrs. Martin has, and some who are watching this from afar might say, was that not enough to bring in Mr. Diaz at that point and say, whoa, we're at another level now? I mean, you see what's going on in Providence, right?
Well, he did get arrested for that case.
Right, but I'm saying...
But without getting into all the details...
But to bring that to it, immediately, the show cause doesn't happen until the end of June.
Well, he did have a detail for a certain time period, not at this past show cause hearing, but the previous one, just to make sure that there were no problems and had police presence.
Why wasn't he brought up until now, in June?
Well, again, I work with the city solicitor, and as you could see by these reports, all these reports were submitted to the city council. And I can make a recommendation to, for the show cause hearing.
At the June hearing, Diaz tried to defend his actions on November 30th, under questioning from the city solicitor, Marcello.
Did you see a gun?
No.
You never saw a gun that night?
No.
Did you see the video that was here today?
Yes.
Are you depicted in that video in any way?
I am in the video, yes.
So even though you're in that video, you never saw a gun?
No.
Diaz also denied it was a handgun, saying instead that it was a stun gun. The council wasn't buying it, and neither was Martin.
Is there any doubt in your mind when you look at that video that it was a gun?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Not a stun gun?
Not a stun gun. No. It had a barrel on it. It had it was a gun.
The chief says his department is still investigating who it was who pulled the gun that night 8 months ago, and that it's still an open case.
Councilman Bochet?
Yes.
Councilman Gendron?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilman Manseri?
Yes.
Meanwhile, after 3.5 hours of testimony last month, the Board of License Commissioners voted to suspend the bar's license from July 2nd through July 5th. It also prohibited all outside activity except for smoking, ordered a private detail on Thursday nights and a police detail on Friday and Saturday nights for July and August, and it ordered surveillance cameras to be installed. Plus, it suspended the bar's entertainment license for 2 months. Chief Carey says having a police officer there on weekend nights, as Diaz did earlier this year, should go a long way to solving the problems, and it's something the council could consider depending on how the next few months go. The chief added that Diaz is now on a very short leash.
Are you going to make Mr. Diaz have detail officers all the time? Having a detail officer there does, calm things down a little bit, and things did calm down. And then when the detail officers left, eventually it started to pick up. But there's been some slow periods where we haven't had many calls at Rick's Bar and Grill.
Martin, who attended the hearing and listened as the penalties were read, told us later she is pleased with what happened.
Roll call.
Councilman Bochet?
But she still doesn't understand why it took so long.
The tapes show all the violations, every single one, from drinking out in public to urination to harassment to fighting to all of these. These are all violations. Why wasn't he brought up on one before now?
In Woonsocket, Jim Hummel for the Hummel Report.